Hello and welcome to the next guide. This time I want to talk about technologies. And before we start, I think it's very important to understand that I won't really talk about specific technologies. There will be some short examples, but we won't go like into detail when can you pick certain technologies and all that stuff, because that would take far too long. If people are interested in like a closer look at specific technologies, comment below. What this is mostly an explanation how you can handle the randomness of upcoming technologies in this game and how you can develop an overall technology plan before a game starts. So first, we need to talk about science, as it's obviously a very huge resource that's required. And maybe not everybody knows this, but you start the game with one science, and then every 2 rounds you get an extra science. So on turn 2 you have 2 science. On turn 3, you still have 2 science, and then on turn 4, you go up to 3 science and continues that way. So without any buildings, culture, pacts, or whatever, we will end up with 16 science on turn 30. Now we can add some culture and some pacts to it, maybe 2 pacts, 1 advanced planet. We have 24 culture, 24 science. And now we can add some buildings. We could, for example, go up to 32 science on turn 30. So this is something you can easily prepare in advance. And you can also know, like, if maybe my threshold is 28, and why I name this number can already be seen below, but I will talk about it in a second. If we say we need 28, and we reach it when we build 2 buildings, we get 2 science pact and 1 advanced planet. Now if we get a second advanced planet, we already know that we can build 1 less science building because we will still have enough. And I think this is very good to have an idea of before the game starts. Just be careful if you get attacked by diplomacy or by espionage or by exploration. That will take up your science cap and you will have to build more science or more culture, whatever. The second big thing is for planning ahead is when will you draw your research edict? And at first it's random because you don't know where it starts out in your deck. But every time you play an edict, it gets added at the end of the queue. And obviously, when it goes to the front, it's the edict you draw. What this means is that you can manipulate your queue. The first edict you play each turn is actually redrawn in 4 turns, while the other 2s are redrawn in 5 turns. What this means is, for example, that it's very easy to always draw your science or your research edict on turn 30, turn 25, and turn 20. Before that, there are some variants regarding the starting position. But you can plan for these things, and I think it's important to keep in mind. What this means is that on average, you will easily be able to play 7 research edicts until turn 30. Now we can continue planning, and we say maybe we are not considering politic research, which, by the way, is a good move, but that makes everything more complex, so I will only talk about the basic, and you can decide yourself how much deeper you want to look into this. But if we want to just go for a tier 7 tech, as we see below here, that will take 28 science in total. So if we want to research every time we draw the research edict until turn 30, and we want to hit tier 7 on turn 30, we need these 30 science or 32 science. Now, maybe we want to split our science. Maybe we go to physics 3 and nano 4, so 1 tier 3, 1 tier 4 tech. This means that we actually would only need 16 science in the first 30 turns, and we actually don't need to build any science buildings at all. So this is just a short introduction to basically a deep rabbit hole you can go down in planning, like when you play your edicts, how often do you play research as the first edict, when you do play it as the second edict, and all that stuff. But I hope it gave you some ideas. Now, the second thing people often say is like, how am I supposed to like plan ahead technology-wise if there's always randomness. No tech is guaranteed. And this is true, but I think there are like common themes along a tech group. With tech group, I mean specific tech tree, physics, nano, or social, and then a specific tier. And this allows you to get an idea what kind of technologies you will get by going into a certain direction, which I think is the first tool of planning ahead your tech. So here I made a little example. For example, I say on physics tier 8, there's a 0% chance to miss a military tech. Now, of course, you need to know the technologies because you cannot just go like tier 8 physics and go like, great, I will find a military tech, I will be stronger immediately, because those military techs are different and sometimes they also don't fit together. So it's not that easy. If you go down this tree, it's not super likely that like even this is like only 16.66 chance to miss a military tech on these three tiers. Actually, often the military techs you will find will not fit each other, so you will only maybe end up with like 2 strong military techs and you don't find 3. Still, it's good to know that if I, for example, research tier 6, 7, 8 on physics, I will definitely have a strong military because it's just impossible to like don't find any synergies at all. Also, maybe another good example is social tier 8. I say it's a 0% chance to miss a text that grants SP. The problem is one of these or even 2 of these texts basically only generate SP if you are fighting. So often when you go social, maybe you are not a big fighter and you cannot be like in a situation you are close to winning and look at this table and say like, oh great, I can go to the social tier 8 tech and I will always get extra victory points. And then you end up with like 15 army strengths and you are allowed to break pacts without penalty, but you don't have a military to attack anyone for free now. So of course, look at the techs, but it's still very, very decent chances, especially for military tech. You can always get some, and there are also like some very interesting ones like tier 2. Physics is great for eco. You have materials on tier 2 of nano, which is an important goal to hit. And then you have like support and army strength in the social tree. Of course, this is not everything because as I said before, not everything will fit. And also like this looks like military is the only thing you can research. Of course, there's more. I think that's the second thing you need to plan in advance. And that's pushing for technologies. What I mean by that is that there are like certain technologies that enable play styles or that give you like a significant edge over people that don't have that technology. And sometimes it's a very good idea to just research towards these technologies relatively quickly. And if you get them, you follow along the path that technology opens up. And if you don't get them, you of course need to have a backup ready to have an alternative plan. Maybe some examples here in the first column. I listed some great techs that allow you to get more victory points, which is like increased megastructure, build speed, 10% on all council titles, and the monolith construction. Especially, of course, these 2 techs are very, very material heavy. You need a great material income. And what this means, maybe you play the early game, pretty normal, you go for a good support eco, and then you will, while doing that, research to level 5 nano, or you don't even need to research level 5, you can research the first 4 tags and then use politic into research to check the 5th tag and then undo. So you don't need the science to see which tags you rolled in the upcoming research. Now if I see that I hit this level 5 nano tag, I can actually now say, okay, my game plan is now at least somewhat reliant on megastructures. So I just go ahead and increase my material production. Maybe now if I have like some other ideas, like I also have to find like a defensive idea, I can go for the more common things, but this is like my push target. I push towards the stack, and if I get it, I will switch hard to material production and go for megastructures in the late game. If I don't get it, I will also know what I can get instead. Then I have a very like if we go back here on tier 5 nano, there's only a 10% chance to miss a military tech. There's actually a 0% chance to miss military techs and not get construction templates. So my plan could be something like this. I push to nano 5. If I see construction templates, I get a very strong material eco. If I miss construction templates, I get a military tech, and maybe I've already built a like decent material eco, and I will now use that to build lots of ammunition, storages and all that stuff, so I can get a very strong military, and instead I will now play for war instead of eco. We have like some very important military techs that just give you very big edges in wars. And we have some nice building techs I wanted to be named, like planetary zoning, allowing you to go for much less support, which is always cool to know if you can get it. Exotic materials can be very good if you have like 2 or 3 unique resources, which, like, to be fair, that's rare, but if you get it, it's absolutely worth it to push for this tech. And then this is also planetary projects with very strong effects. So all the stuff can be pushed for. You can also push for a ton of other techs. This is really just some examples of what techs you can push for look like. And then I wanted to make a short example. And this is basically my plan. At the start of the game, I decided that I want to go for a big amount of military, basically become the strongest force in the game. And I have decided that there are like 3 key techs I want to push for. And the first one is Battleship +2. And I want to get this before the second council, so I can fight for Nexus around that time. Afterwards, I want to push for Capitals +3 on Physics 6 and maybe even Capital Ships +4 on Physics 8. This, to start with, is like a decent plan. We have pretty clear goals like hit the Nano 4 on turn 16, and then go to Capitals +3 maybe on turn 30, and then for the turn 40 fight maybe we get to level 8. Now, what actually happened in this game is we know that until turn 15 we can easily play 6 technologies. So we want to get to Physics 2 because there's laser cannons as well, and we know that we want to go down the Physics tree anyways, and we want to go to Nano 4. On Physics 2, we actually miss out on laser cannons, and instead we pick cold fusion reactor. And then on our way to the Nano 4 tech, we actually find mining drones, which is a great tech because we found a bunch of rich planets around us. Now we continue, and actually we miss out on our first target technology, reflective armor. Instead we pick up mining guilds, which again combos well with our rich planets that we already have. And now the question is, how do we continue? Of course, we could say like, well, we missed like one tech, and maybe laser cannon is like a minor target, which also sucks to miss it, but we can still go for heavy plasma cannons on Physics 6, and we continue with our plan. We couldn't contest Nexus turn 16, but we will be able to contest Nexus on turn 30. And this might even be fine. Like at the beginning, having a plan and just following it is good, but in the end, if you want to be really good at Nexus, you need to adapt to your situation. And maybe instead of going for Physics 6, we should look for these techs. Construction templates. We have a combination of techs that basically allows a completely crazy amount of production. So megas looked like a very reasonable target. We are also already at Nano 4, so it's very easy to find out if we get construction templates or not. If we get that, we can maybe go into, this is just an example, I put advanced fighters here, but basically there are 3 techs that are very good for ranged fleets on physics 4. So I can just go for that, hoping to get a strong defensive setup with ranged fleets instead of going for capitals. But ranged fleets obviously are better at defending. This is also explained in my recent fleet composition guide. And so this is a good tech to go for if we only want to defend. And then we can also go for monolith construction, which is a big mega structure in this game, to close out even more and use our strong material production that we already got guaranteed from the techs we already found. So I hope this gives you like a rough idea on how to plan ahead with technologies. If there are any questions left, comment down below or ask me on the Discord. And yeah, thank you for watching.